Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast, another training camp edition as camp continues to roll on and on and on and on and on and on. Training camp coverage on the CHGO Bears Podcast is presented by Ray Chevrolet. Shop the Freedom to Save sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com, serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. Adam Hoge, Greg Braggs Jr., Nicholas Moreano with you today on this beautiful Tuesday in the northern suburbs of Chicago. Shout out to our new diehards, and we have a lot. Great job over the weekend, boys, with all the game coverage as I was out of town at a family wedding. But the results, all the content we got out, a lot of new diehards to thank as we start this new week in Bears camp. I think it's week 4 already, which is crazy. Charlie, Derek, Eli, Luke, Ross, Seth, Brian, Andy, Jameson, Colin, Matt, and another Derek, all joining us as CHGO diehards. Wow. Love to see it. Love to see it.
You're not gonna sing them like Karm would?
No, I'm not.
Jordan voice singing. Yeah, not this time.
Well, hey, how much singing did you do on the 85 podcast here came out earlier this morning. 3 shows in one day here coming up after dark later tonight, but kicking things off right with Cole Kmet, right?
Yeah, big day for us here. 3 shows. This is show number 2 because show number 1 already came out. Go check it out. The 85 with Cole Kmet, first episode in what's going to be a weekly show, new to our CHGO lineup throughout the season. With it's Cole's show. Cole is hosting it. He's going to be talking to teammates, and DJ Moore was the first guest on the show. Them talking about Caleb's game Saturday, type of stuff you definitely want to hear. I'm along for the ride, kind of co-hosting it and, asking Cole some questions. He actually asked me a question too about the media in there as well. That's a little must-listen nugget too. I think
scary.
It's funny. Yeah, a little bit. I got to say, guys, like this is it's been a lot of work but a really fun project that we've been working on for a few months now, and so to see the finished product go out this morning, very proud of it, and excited because I think it's just going to add another layer to our already outstanding lineup of Bears coverage all season long. But this is the type of thing that really you're not going to get anywhere else, where you have a teammate interviewing a teammate throughout the season. You hear, you got various athletes that do their media stuff. Whether it was like Cole joining us last year, for instance. And we're still going to hear from Cole, by the way, on the CHGO Bears podcast. But he's going to be, doing his own show. And
we better, because I need to know about him dropping that pass. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
hey, but that's the type of thing. So the 2 drops were DJ and Cole in the game, and they talked to each other about it.
That's
like
awesome.
I didn't even have to grill them on it. Cole asked DJ. So that's the type of stuff you guys are going to get. And I can already tease that I think the interview we're running next week is, at least in my opinion, it's even more in depth and interesting from a very interesting player on the team that you might not hear from as much. So I think it's just a little tease for next week's episode as well. But no, very rewarding because to be honest, like from the moment, quick story. Johns and I interviewed Cole Kmet about a week or 2 before he was drafted by the Bears back in 2020. And honestly, from like that interview on, I'm like, if this guy ends up getting drafted by the Bears, like he has a future in media, if he wants it. And so it's, going back now a couple of years to joining CHGO and, trying to constantly nag our awesome GM Jake and Brandon Spano about like, hey, Cole Kmet, it's the guy we want to, kind of bring in here. And now to see this grow in year 2 with him to this whole new show concept with him, it's very rewarding, and it's been very cool. So that's all I'll say about it for now. Go listen to it. Wait till the show's over, of course, but make sure you put it on your lineup of things that you consume today, sometime between now and our Hard Knock show later on tonight.
It was inevitable too, like you were saying, like Cole, when he came on the CHGO Bears shows, how he would, articulate his thoughts, how he would just be on the podcast. It's like that guy, he's going to be the best podcasting tight end in the league. And look at that. He's got his own show and best hosting and best looking too. So it's
exactly. That's what I was going to say. He could be the best tight end in the league, the best podcaster in football and media. And he could also be the best model if he wanted to do that as well. So what do you got, Hoge, with best and worst? It wasn't the most eventful day of practice, so you gotta get tricky here today. You gotta find the bright spots.
Yeah, like it seems like all these practices coming off an off day are always a little bit, lighter. They're not in pads. They're shorter. They're more like low red zone stuff and special teams. But there's been moments of this throughout camp, and I especially love seeing it today with all the low red work that they're doing. But, and I hate to bring this back up to Bears fans, but I promise you it's with good intentions. But you remember how easy it was for Aaron Rodgers to just pick up third downs and touchdowns on the Bears with those slants, those constant slants, to what's his face? 17. Why am I blanking on his name? 17.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, what the heck was that? My brain is
Greg Jennings
last night. Yeah.
Donald Driver.
All of
Jordy Nelson. Randall Cobb.
I was right now.
Yeah, specifically to Adams, though, is what I was thinking of. Anyway, the reason I bring that up is because little bit of Aaron Rodgers in some of these quick slants to a DJ Moore today, to a Keenan Allen today. And it's been very frustrating watching the Bears like all these years and being like, why can't that look so easy? Why can't they do that? And obviously you need to have the receivers to win that quickly at the line of scrimmage, but you also need to have the quarterback because the one today to Moore was like a little like sort of sidearm flick through traffic. It was really cool. So that's my best today, because just seeing those today specifically, but also kind of throughout camp, start to just pile up a little bit. Know that's something the Bears have in their arsenal on key third downs. I think is going to be huge for them. And then I didn't have a whole lot of bad things, I think, today, because it's just they're kind of working through some stuff. But I'd have to say another missed field goal from Cairo in there. I guess I'll just throw in there. Did you guys count more than one? It was I just counted a one.
He had the one. Yeah. He made the 55-yarder.
Yeah. But honestly, I'm reaching there, to be honest. Like, I'm reaching to, I guess there were a couple interception there you could pick. So whatever you want to go with. But for me, that's just what I'm going to go with. I'm still not worried about Cairo. And like you guys said, he bounced back and he hit, a couple deep ones, including a 55-yarder.
Yeah, no, this practice, it was like you said, after a day off, it's kind of you have to work your way back into things. But for my best, it was towards the end of practice. I think the best play of the day from the offense was that double move from Roma Dunze. And I think it was Terrell Smith in coverage on the play, and Caleb Williams was able to draw the defense offside and take advantage of the play and just hit Odunze for the touchdown. It was a beautiful route, just a nasty route, looking in, going back vertical. Terrell Smith looking like, where is 15? He's in the back of the end zone catching a touchdown from Caleb Williams. So that was really nice to see after, it was a mixed results day on offense. And then, I have two worse, and one is on the football field and some afterwards, but there was some snapping issues going on in the low red zone where it looked like Caleb Williams got the snap from Coleman Shelton. He wasn't even expecting it. So it was a false start. And then after a throw to Keenan Allen, there was another fumbled exchange where Caleb tried to get the ball to DeAndre Swift on a jet sweep, but it just didn't work out. They ended up actually doing that play later in the practice, but in 3 plays, you had something wrong go with the snap. But then my other worst, you guys, I don't know if you've seen the social media video that the Bears posted about what is considered old. Some of these players are saying 26 is considered old. Like, that's some bull crap. Like, I'm not going to take that yet. I'm 29 and now I'm old. well, I guess some of these guys are just so young, but 26. Braxton Jones said 40. I appreciate Braxton Jones and just, I don't know, just the transparency there. But 26, I'm like, oh, hell no. Like that is
Caleb
not cool.
Caleb was the one being nice and bumped it up to 59, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Saying what your oldest. And then Tyreek Stevenson saying 36. I'm 38. So, Tyreek's, looking down on us, mid 30-year-olds. Karm, not making the cut with most of these players. A few. Caleb still considers him young, so that much.
Karm's in the chat right now too. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not old enough.
You know where Karm is? Karm's in the doghouse. Because he doesn't know that we're in training camp, right? Like this is training camp. Mm-hmm. And you don't go to whatever family camp is in the middle of training camp.
Yep.
You have, 8 other months of the year to do that. And, just you're
happy belated birthday, Karm.
I feel about Karm. I think the way Flus feels about Nate Davis right now.
You put the camp in there.
Yeah.
Can you pronounce that again there, Greg?
Camp Nabagamon. Just let him take his mushrooms in the forest. Jeez Louise. In peace.
I'll never forget that clip.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to see more slants, like you said, Hoge. I saw you talking about it on Hoge and John's. Like, hey, are they a good screen team now? You saw a couple really nice screens today. If we're throwing slants and screens, I don't know. Bears fans might throw the parade before we even get to the playoffs. But my best is, I had a couple. I'll give a shout out to your guy, Torrey Taylor. He did on punting drills on his first punt, dot it at the 1 yard line. It was a perfect punt. It drew oohs and ahs just as much as Rome Odunze's double move. Beautiful punt. He had many inside the 10, but that one was his best punt of the day. But the one that I really wanted to point out was, Eberflus's attention to detail. In the 11-on-11 red zone, the first one they did on the far side of the field, it was an extended session. They had a lot more plays than you normally see. It was like more towards 8 or 9 plays as opposed to your usual 5. And on one of the jet sweeps, like Nick mentioned, where there was on the handoff exchange, the ball went on the ground. And so they ran like 3 or 4 more plays after that. And then Eberflus had them run that play again as their final play of that session. Yeah. And so I just enjoyed that attention to detail from Eberflus. They're like, hey, you guys aren't coming off the field until you get it right. DeAndre Swift, Caleb Williams with a nice exchange. DeAndre Swift goes skirting up the left sidelines. And you're just starting to really see the kind of weapon that DeAndre Swift's going to be to this football team. You saw it on full display on Saturday, and I just think you're going to see more and more of that. My worst is, there wasn't too much to take from practice today. It was pretty slow going, no pads, there really wasn't anything that I could really pinpoint. But the one thing that came across the waiver wire on Twitter was that JJ McCarthy's out with a meniscus injury. It sounds like he has a torn meniscus, and we'll find out the severity of it. And I'm being for real. Like, to me, I've been excited about where this division is going. You see JJ McCarthy. I think this quarterback class in general has a lot of promise, led by Caleb Williams. But, when you look at this whole division, where they're going, the Lions, the Packers with Jordan Love, and then the Vikings, obviously, bringing in JJ McCarthy with the top 10 pick, if Caleb Williams is going to be the best quarterback in football, then this division is going to be the toughest division in football, and it's only going to make him elevate his game even more. So for JJ to be out, I feel bad for the Vikings. I know he was kind of, laying it out there the other day during their preseason game. So maybe that had something that attributed to that. So you just hope that everybody, can make it through clean for the Bears. But at the same time, looking across the rivalry to the Vikings, losing your quarterback like that, you never like to see at the end of the day. So that's my worst for the day.
Yeah, I think that's a good mention as the worst, because that was tough news to come in. And we are actually going to circle back to JJ McCarthy a little bit later on in the show. A little bit of NFC North talk a little bit later on in the show. First, we'll recap practice, tell you everything you need to know about the press conferences and everything. But I do have, because I have some things on Green Bay as well. And I do want to talk about that Minnesota quarterback situation too. In the meantime, though, want to make sure you are aware of the services that BetterHelp can provide for you, because look, we're all busy. For instance, like I was just telling Greg before our show started, I think for me might end up being the busiest week of the entire football calendar, and everybody kind of goes through that at times, right? You got your kids' activities, your big work projects. It's easy to let priorities slip through the door sometimes, and even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. So, you're gonna need to get some help from time to time and make time to talk some things out. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And the nice thing is too, is if you try it and you're not completely thrilled with that match, you can easily switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. They make it super easy and as convenient as possible for you to get those talking sessions in when you need them, when you got all this other busy stuff going on in your busy life. And that's where I highly recommend checking out BetterHelp. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Just like Nick doesn't miss leg day ever, or arm day, or whatever he's doing over there every single morning. You can be like Nick. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/CHGO today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/CHGO.
I don't know why I was picturing Karm as a therapist, but I don't know if that'd be good or bad. But check out BetterHelp, and also check out Indeed, where Indeed is driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need a hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And one of the things I love about Indeed is that the matching engine that they use is constantly learning from your preferences, so it helps you to find the right match for you. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
By the way, happy birthday to Mark Carmen. He's gonna be off all week. He's leaving us, but he did celebrate his 73rd birthday on Sunday. And I want everybody to know that the gift that was given to him on his birthday, which I chipped in a little bit with his Jackie too, is really a gift for everybody. Mm-hmm. Because it's a nicer microphone for him. So he's gonna sound. Yeah, he's gonna sound. Speaking of microphone, Greg, you're muted right now. I guess Greg is next.
Yep. Might not come in today.
The funny thing is, I said I thought you got him a muzzle, and then I was the one that was muzzled.
That's awesome. Yep. That's even better.
Yep.
So yeah. So everybody is going to benefit from Mark Carmen's birthday gift because he's going to sound really nice with a even better microphone. Unless
crystal clear Jordan voice. So it's going to be
crystal
great.
clear Jordan. The only one who's probably upset by that gift is Pizzatola.
Yeah.
Pizzatola.
So, no, we love Karm, and I hope Karm has a great week and had a happy birthday. In the meantime, let's get back to what was going on at Hallis Hall today. And I wanted to do a defensive check-in. As much as Greg one of the saddest moments. I'm listening to your post-game show from Saturday, and like, I don't know who it was who tried to change the subject off Caleb for like literally 3 seconds. And Greg's just like, I just want to talk about Caleb for 2.5 hours. And it sounded like that. We do have a defense that every once in a while we have to check in on and discuss. Well, it was defensive day at Hallis Hall because Eric Washington, who I feel like some don't even know is the Bears defensive coordinator at this point, he talked. We heard from Andrew Billings, and we heard from Dom Rob, who is having an interesting camp to me because he's bigger, significantly bigger, right, Nick? I think he said he put on 15 pounds of muscle.
15 pounds with 8% body fat at 273 pounds. Stupid.
And
Unreal.
He said he's eating a lot of protein, carbs, and staying low on his fat. And guess what that is, ladies and gentlemen? That is the macro diet that I have been kicking ass on for the last 14 months. Thank you very much. Dom Rob doing the Braggs routine.
Is that Taco Bell too? Does that consist of Taco Bell?
Post a video from Taco Bell yesterday.
Listen, yes, me and my family were chanting Caleb Williams as we pulled into Taco Bell. But again, what Dom Rob
Jenny
said
was definitely not chanting.
Again,
she was just rolling her eyes in disappointment.
She was. But carbs are okay. Don't let anyone tell you that carbs aren't healthy. It's in moderation. You can eat whatever you want as long as it's in moderation and you work out every single day. Right, Nick?
Yes.
Well, the working out during training camp is what I'm struggling with right now. But Dom Rob was definitely working out, and he was doing all kinds of stuff. And he put on 15 pounds. Quite frankly, it looks more like 25 pounds. He just looks bigger, and it was cool to see in the game on Saturday him look better. I mean, that run stuff he had
on 3rd and 2.
I feel the running back kind of didn't come right to him, but he made a really nice play to get penetration and get in the backfield. It was a really nice play. And so I think you're seeing that strength start to pay off for a guy that did need to put on, some muscle to hang as a defensive lineman in the NFL when he's just a few years removed from being a wide receiver. And I also love what he had to say. I mean, asked point blank, like to start his press conference, our guy Herb Howard, who did a great job with you guys on Saturday on the postgame show. Herb was like, you feel like this is now or never for you? And he's like, I mean, being realistic, yeah, it is. He said, I've been put in a position where in my head, it's either I take the spot or it's football. It's a business. I came in trying to prove a point, and so far that's going well. And I think, from somebody that I think Dom Robin is admitting there that, he looked at this like a bubble situation. He may still be on that bubble, but I think he's doing a decent job so far in camp to keep his roster spot, Nick.
I like the transparency that he had with the situation, knowing that he still needs to prove himself, playing a new position. And honestly, when you were just kind of detailing that, Adam, I was thinking of, for some reason, Nate Davis. Like, I wonder if he has that same mindset for someone that needs to kind of prove himself because he hasn't been in practice. Like, I need to keep proving myself every single day. That's what Dom Rob's doing. He's showing that in the preseason game, showing that in practice, like he said. But it's a good mentality to have, especially when you are at the bottom looking in terms of rotations at the defensive end spot. So I liked how he played against the Buffalo Bills. I like the weight that he's put on. And for him, he feels like he still has that speed, which is, what I think was known for, what Poles was intrigued about when they drafted him. So it's a good start for Dom Rob. So let's see if he can continue that through his preseason.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I enjoyed his transparency as well, and I'm certainly rooting for him. I mean, the Bears need him. They need the additional pass rush. So, if he's able to take that role on where they don't feel pressed to bring back Yannick Ngakoue, or, I know everyone's obsessing over Hassan Reddick and Matthew Judon, which would be, obviously huge upgrades. They're big time talents, but would take a lot of draft equity to do something like that. But if you've got, Austin Booker and Dominique Robinson and Hardy, who flashed, here over the weekend, and rotational players that, can make the sum of the whole, and take over for that, all the better for the Bears. So I'm certainly rooting for it, but I couldn't decide if the transparency also had a little bit of like, if he kind of felt like sad almost. Like I couldn't quite put my finger on it, watching his mannerisms, like if he truly felt confident in where he's at, or if he's still kind of in this place where has some uncertainty. And it reminded me a lot of Kyle Fuller, when he started to get to the back end of his, rookie contract, and it felt like he might get cut, and he didn't. And then all of a sudden Kyle Fuller broke out and earned himself a pretty big contract. And let's hope that's what the story goes for Dom Rob here. But, I still think he's going to have to show out a couple more times in these preseason games to prove to Ryan Poles that they don't need to try to find an upgrade on the open market, or see if somebody gets a surprise cut from another team.
Yeah. And, I want to remind people that, when the Bears traded for Montez Sweat last year, one of those defensive ends had to move to being inactive on game days. And that was Dominique Robinson. And it wasn't until Yannick Ngakoue got hurt that he was back to being active on game day. So like that was, and I remember us talking about it at the time, that was sort of a telltale sign that he was sort of the last one in that room, on the depth chart. Now they obviously didn't bring Yannick back, but they added Austin Booker. And so there's a fight here right now. But I think it's very encouraging. And we noticed it right away, right? Like the first OTA that we saw him, we're like, whoa, he looks like a defensive end. And honestly, as encouraging as Austin Booker's start has been, I kind of think if you listen to Eric Washington closely today, you heard the same thing about Booker. Like a little bit of let's pump the brakes here a little bit, because when you get into the grind of an NFL season, you have to have that bulk that Dom Rob now appears to have. And I don't think Austin Booker is going to have that as a rookie. I'm not saying he can't be impactful. I'm not saying he can't be a situational pass rusher and have some success, but you got to have that bulk at that position. And it is interesting to me that Dominique Robinson now has it. So I'm going to continue to watch him very closely in these final two preseason games.
Well, Nick, I mean, you talked to Zach Pickens, and he mentioned having to get, in better shape so he could handle those fourth quarter snaps, not being, I think he referenced playing like 6-7 snaps in a row in the fourth quarter and not being able to sustain that fatigue. And Gervon Dexter, we talked to him over the summer. He said the same thing. Hey, I got to get in shape because, to make it through the war of attrition of a game, I wasn't there. And look at how those two showed up to camp. Look at how Dom Rob showed up to camp. So I think the message has been delivered to some of these young guys that they got to be in much better physical condition to be able to make it through 4 quarters of an NFL football game.
Absolutely. And two, they all know that they're going to get opportunities at different parts in the game with how the Bears rotate their defensive line. So you have to be in shape. You have to be ready to go whenever your number's being asked. So I like that these young guys have taken that mentality too. I think Dom Rob did have a little bit more, spark when he's talking about his addition to what he can provide on special teams because of the new body types that they can bring. Like he had like a noticeable smile on his face. Like, I don't have to run 40 yards. I still have enough wiggle to make tackles. And honestly, Dom Rob, just his body type and what he looks like now, that's a good guy to have on that special teams or on the kickoff unit, especially when you make a tackle. So there's value with Dominique Robinson as a rotational edge rusher, but also a guy that can produce on special teams.
And just to close the Eric Washington sort of portion of the show with his press conference, he was asked about Montez Sweat being ready for week 1. And just to kind of summarize what he said, it didn't sound like there's any concern. I got no concern about Montez Sweat. I'm barely even paying attention to where 98 is out there. Like maybe he's just taking the rest of training camp off. Like, and who cares? Because we know he's going to be ready to go. It's not like he's doing nothing out there. He is doing work out there every day. Like, wasn't it over a week ago now that we saw him going up and down that hill, behind the practice fields 3 and 4. So I have absolutely no concerns about Montez Sweat. And quite frankly, it just means more reps for guys like Austin Booker and Dom Robb to continue to develop. And I think that's great.
For sure. Real quick, I mean, Greg Stroman had an interception, and then you heard Montez Sweat on the bike to the crib. So he's still engaging and trying to get, engaged in practice. So he'll be fine.
And
hey, Greg, real quick, it's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles, and that's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being of all of us who share it.
That's right. That's exactly what I was going to say. When I'm driving to the crib, I'm driving my electric vehicle from Kmet. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with the confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, Kmet can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do?
They should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
Yes, I did. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
You can take those electric vehicles that you guys are all driving, as you should, and you can drive them to Circa because they have the tight money line splits and the low hold model. Games will strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use a -115 or even -120 splits. And Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to some of those other books. They also have high app limits and transparency. Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. We encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available. Compare the lines from each sports book. We're really cool with that. Check them out, and you'll see for yourself. And the Circa customer service. There are real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sports book and Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. But here's what you got to do. Download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also, be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. They're with us for all the Cubs Friday 120 Club, so you got to check them out. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537 to text GAMB to 833-234 or visit areyoureallywinning.com.
And real quick before we talk about some NFC North stuff, I do just want to check in, Nick, if you have a list of some of the guys who are like the full list of guys who are out today. I don't know if you have that, but I did want to mention that. So Montez Sweat, I said, was doing some stuff off to the side. At one point, Kyler Gordon and Tyreek Stevenson were all doing what seemed to be like some more advanced conditioning than they have been doing, and they were doing it on the field while the rest of the team was doing stuff in that low red area on the other half of the field. It looked like a step in the right direction, and I know Kyler actually, right, Nick, was stretching with the team to start the day, so it seemed like a positive step. And oh, by the way, Nate Davis did some
stuff.
He did some stuff. Yeah,
that's positive, man. You got to start somewhere.
We're doing it.
Baby steps. In the beginning of practice, you guys, you had Jaquan Brisker, Jacob Martin. It was good seeing Jacob Martin even out there. It's been a while since we've seen 5-5 out there. Noah Sewell, DeAndre Carter, Ryan Bates, Colin Johnson, Adrian Colbert, and Roshan Johnson were off to the side and not stretching with the team. And then you had Montez Sweat. Nate Davis didn't actually participate in the team portions. You had Matt Pryor at right guard. Kyler Gordon never really got in the team portion or 7-on-7s as well. So
yeah, when I was
progress.
When I was crutching my way over to the bleachers, Roshan Johnson was like the first guy in the practice field. Nobody's out there, and there's not really that many fans out there yet either. So I was kind of, limping over by myself, and I said, "What's up, Roshan?" He looked over. He's like, "What's up?" I go, "How you feeling?" And he was like, "Good." That was it. I was like, "Okay, you're not gonna give me the details. So be it, Roshan." That's how that went.
You were investigative reporting right there.
Yeah, you were expecting to get more details?
Yeah, like I needed an update. I wasn't like, not how your day is going. It was like, how you feeling, Roshan? Come on, we need the details.
Mm-hmm.
He should have looked at you and your crutches and been like, better than you are.
He could have. He very well could have.
Mark Harmon in the chat. Great reporting.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of somebody who's going to need some crutches, JJ McCarthy.
Yep.
The Braggs touched on it earlier on in the show with his worst of the day, and I think it's it's fair to throw that in there. Nobody wants to see talented players in the division get hurt, and in this case, just an intriguing player, regardless of what it all looked like. Now,
he played really well on Saturday too. I know he threw the pick, but he had some really nice throws.
And apparently played through this injury, which is probably not smart in a preseason game. But, from what I could gather, he was, feeling it a little bit, didn't think it was anything, kept going. And now there's that old partial tear in the meniscus, and they'll get in there and they'll decide in the surgery whether they want to just trim it, which is a faster recovery time, or actually do a full repair, which is a longer recovery time. Now, so you guys know I was spending a decent amount of time in Minnesota back around the draft time and after the draft with my family situation. And I always love listening to Paul Allen when I'm up there on KFan. And at one point, I think I actually still have the tweet drafted, saved in my drafts, because I wanted to tweet at them after listening to their show one morning. Because and I might have even brought this up on our show. I think I did.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah. It sounded exactly like it did when the Bears drafted Mitch Trubisky and were put him behind Mike Glennon. And when they drafted Justin Fields and they put him behind Andy Dalton. It's we got this first round pick and JJ McCarthy, but we're going to screw around and we're going to have Sam Darnold take all the starting reps. And he's the starter until otherwise. And it's just you're wasting time. We know how this ends. I'm telling you from experience that JJ McCarthy is going to end up starting before you want him to. And you're going to look back on it and be like, he should have gotten all the reps. So this obviously throws a wrench in all that, because he's going to miss some time here. And now he's not even going to be able to get those practice reps.
Right.
So I guess if the goal of the Vikings really was to kind of use this as a developmental year, if you're going to try to spin this positively at all for Minnesota, it's going to kind of force their hand that he's going to have to sit there and watch and sort of see things unfold. So I don't think it's the end of the world for JJ McCarthy. But also, if this ends up just being a trimming of the meniscus, that's I feel like something he could still be back by, depending on, these things are weird. It could be by the end of September, quite frankly, or it could be a longer thing that ends up, he misses the whole rookie season.
I'm trying to look up really quickly, if you trim your meniscus, does that now subject you to more meniscus type of injuries?
What it can lead to, yes, it can lead to, it's a faster recovery time, but it can lead to more sort of chronic pain issues later on in his career. So that's where man, if I'm the Vikings,
you're taking ligaments away, which gives you a better chance of more bone on bone. Steven's jumping in here.
Exactly. Yeah. The bone on bone. So when you get a little bit older, it's going to be more more painful, less mobility in there. It's what Dwayne Wade had happen to him in college at Marquette. They removed the meniscus or trimmed it, and it ended up causing issues later on in his career. So there's pros and cons. If you're going to be a good player like JJ McCarthy, you're probably better off just repairing it and taking your time with it instead.
All right.
Give us a like for little Steven. Everyone give a like for little Steven and his analysis, sir.
Some great injury analysis from little Steven there. I loved it. No, but yeah, he was explaining it better than I was. So that's long way of us saying it sounds like Sam Darnold, in the division, at least in the short term for the Vikings. And I don't know if that really impacts their wins and losses. I'm definitely higher than JJ McCarthy in the long term, obviously, but it would have been
this
quarterback.
Slows down the big picture for the Vikings with JJ. But in the short term, Sam Darnold's been playing pretty well as well, with Kevin O'Connell calling plays there and the kind of weapons they have in Minnesota. I think Sam Darnold's going to be a little better than people realize, with the Vikings this year. And I do think JJ McCarthy was starting to push because, as you said, anytime you have a rookie quarterback that's in the top 10, he's going to find his way into this starting spot at some point. They're going through this in Denver. They're going through this in New England. I was watching Steve Smith talk about it in terms of Bo Nix in Denver, and he was like, hey, guys, we all know what this is. They're going to say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, they have all the incentive in the world to have the rookie playing as soon as possible to prove that the pick was right. And so, every team goes through this. We know this as Bears fans, as Hoge mentioned multiple times. It hurts them, but for the short term, and maybe JJ would have been able to pick this up quickly. And then, for big picture for his career, become the quarterback they all hope he is. But in the long term, no, now it makes their decision for them. This can be somewhat of a redshirt year. Maybe he shows up halfway through the season and becomes their starting quarterback, and they can take their time with it. The only thing they really are missing out with is, like you said, those reps, because, he threw that pick on Saturday. Not good. He doesn't have the dynamic arm like Caleb Williams to throw, these crazy circus passes with velocity and accuracy. He's trying to throw one into the flat and he overthrows it like he's not the number one pick, but at the same time, he's got a lot of talent and hit some guys in stride. Guys coming down the barrel, laying him out. He stood tall in the pocket and delivered some strikes, showing some toughness, showing some poise in the pocket. It sucks for them, it sucks, for football in general. Anybody that is laughing at this or rooting for injury, I always caution fans to not go that way. The football gods are always watching. So, one day it could be your guys that you root for. So, iron sharpens iron at practice, and so does it. Same goes for that saying in the division as well.
Well, if Sam Darnold is the quarterback when the Bears first played the Vikings on November 24th, just looking, Darnold has played the Bears in his career. Back in 2018, he was with the Jets, 14 of 29, 1 touchdown. Bears win 24-10. I think that was the Tariq Cohen long touchdown game. From
I think it was. But the thing about Darnold has been and has continued to be, he turns the ball over too much. And now I do think going to San Francisco and getting, that time
weapons
there with Kyle Shanahan and really sitting on the bench last year. We actually talked to Sam Darnold at the Super Bowl, I believe. I feel like we were talking to him on the floor at the media night. That might still exist.
What do we ask
somewhere.
him about?
I don't even know. But I do think the year in San Francisco will do him well. That being said, when you're this deep in your career and that continues to be an issue, turning the ball over, I just feel like it's going to, that's not really going to change completely. November 24th, that's a long time from now. So we'll have to continue to watch the JJ McCarthy thing, because if I'm thinking about matchups, Bears defense versus these two quarterbacks, as weird as it sounds, like, I think the Vikings would be better off against the Bears with JJ McCarthy in there, because his strength to me, now he's going to have rookie moments and he's going to turn the ball over too, but his strength to me, and as we talked about him going into the draft, is him operating the offense, understanding that he's a point guard, kind of that high level game manager type of player where just don't turn the ball over. And I feel like even if he had been thrown out there early as a rookie, I still think like he would have been able to do that. They might not, especially with those weapons he has to work with. And I just feel like Darnold's still going to be way more prone to making mistakes and trying to fit balls in the windows that aren't really there. And with this opportunistic Bears defense, which we all think is going to be taking the ball away a lot this year, it's just going to be something to watch. Because if I'm the Bears, I'm kind of sitting there like getting hungry about playing Sam Darnold and the takeaways I might be able to get.
Well, wasn't Sam Darnold the guy when he was on the Panthers that got caught on camera saying, "I'm seeing ghosts," And so to your point about the turnovers, you get caught saying that on video. That's not a great look. But to your point about playing under Shanahan, yeah, I think that's a great learning experience that every quarterback, I think, would get better by having. I think that JJ McCarthy will also have some turnover issues with some of his arm strength, being a concern. I thought the QB school, JT O'Sullivan, he did some really great breakdowns here over the last few days, including Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy. And I think those things always help us as fans. Nick and Adam also were doing some film breakdown on Twitter, like those for me as somebody that doesn't understand every X and O in terms of football nuance, helps us become better football fans and smarter football fans. But QB school did a nice job with JJ McCarthy, and I thought there's some really interesting things in there. I don't know if you guys caught it, but the one thing that really stood out to me outside of JJ's pocket presence was this play where they had two wide receivers lined up, and the first wide receiver that was ahead, they were stacked, and the guy in front acted like he was blocking, like it was a run play, and then took off and ran the route, and that threw off both DBs and made them late on the receivers, and that gave JJ McCarthy the ability to fire it to an open receiver. So I thought that was a really interesting concept that I hope the Bears take and utilize. Everybody's stealing from each other these days in the NFL.
A couple other NFC North nuggets. One, Jahmyr Gibbs on the Lions suffered a hamstring injury yesterday. I have not seen an update yet today on his status, but that was a significant, at least name. I don't know how significant the injury is at this point. And then, guys, I spent my weekend in Green Bay while the Bears were in Buffalo. We had a family wedding, and my cousin who got married, basically, grew up in that area, just north of Green Bay. And I have to say, it was a beautiful wedding. It was a beautiful venue, kind of overlooking the Fox River there, except right behind the band, on this like 6th floor venue, lit up in big green and gold, was Lambeau Field, and it was just there the entire night. And I had to say, I said to my cousin, I'm like, this is a beautiful wedding, but other than that I've had to look at all night long, of course.
It's like that picture of the couple that got married at the McDonald's.
Yeah.
This is your family, right, Hoge, that I'm making fun of right here, right?
Yes, this is my family.
This is
yes,
your family. Okay. And they're from Wisconsin, right?
Because you and Jenny got married at Taco Bell, right? Not McDonald's.
Exactly right. Exactly right. They better give us a sponsorship. I know Gritty in the chat's been trying to help with this, but you're absolutely right. Yes. When we renew our vows, it'll be at Taco Bell. Thank you very much.
Does Jenny know about this?
She will eventually, but that's very beautiful, Hoge. You got to see, your family get married in Wisconsin, and I've never seen, cousins get married to each other, overlooking Lambeau Field. I'm just joking. It's a Packer fan. It's a Packer fan joke. Sorry.
Well, to clarify, I did not have two cousins marry each other.
That's what they do in Wisconsin. I'm sorry.
You live in Indiana.
It's like Alabama type stuff. Like, what are we talking about here?
No. This is a Packer fan thing.
Okay. Well, fine. Another Packer fan in my family is my brother-in-law. Of course, the one that, my brother-in-law who had the stroke back in April. And we, he's doing better enough now that we were able to take him because part of this wedding thing on Friday, and Greg, I think, had a heart attack when I put one of my photos in Slack because he was very confused about what was going on. But we actually took a tour of Lambeau Field on Friday night. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because there was my biggest takeaway from this tour. I'm glad Karm's not here right now. Is that it would be absolutely insane for the Bears to not build a stadium that they do not have control over bringing in revenue from, on 365 days a year, because on this random day in August when the Packers were actually in Cleveland because they were about to play the Browns, the Lambeau Field atrium full of people, constant stadium tours, a restaurant, title town across the street that they built, like all these great things. And they tell you on the tour that Bob Harlan back in the late 90s was starting to recognize that the Packers were falling behind in revenue, specifically when it came to stadiums. The late 90s.
Wow.
Okay, so that means that the Bears are 25 years behind the Packers now when it comes to that? And that actually happened before they started renovating Soldier Field, which they botched. So I worded what I just said very carefully because the Packers do not own their own stadium, but it's a very weird situation with them being a publicly owned team. And my understanding of the whole thing is they have enough control over the stadium that they're able to do what they want and pull in the revenue, because the whole idea of being a publicly owned team is that fans basically donate money to them. Anytime they need to raise money for more renovations, they get it done. But they're able to profit off of all that. And so maybe there's a world that Karm keeps talking about that they can have more control over the lakefront land and more control over all that stuff. And they can accomplish all that down, in the lakefront with the stadium. Certainly the renderings they put out there, which seem rushed and all that, whatever, like hinted at some of that stuff. But we all know, based on the two proposals we've seen, the Arlington Heights property allows for all of that control and residential. There's all this residential next to Lambeau now. There's nothing there. And now there's this title town with actual condos and all this residential going on. And if they can do that in Green Bay, they can certainly do it in Arlington Heights, obviously. And it's just kind of puts things in perspective when you hear the Packers talking about, oh yeah, we noticed this in the 90s and we were actually struggling financially, and this whole thing turned everything around. Well, how far behind are the Bears going to continue to be when it comes to stadiums? They have to get this right.
And I know, Greg, you love talking about stadiums, but
nothing I love more.
I mean, there's nothing you love more, or the Bears defense. It has to be Caleb Williams. But
Greg hates the show so much.
Yeah, this one is not the one for him. But it makes a lot of sense. I've been on the Arlington Heights for the Bears. I think it's, again, the realistic option that would give them the most opportunities to build something that for years to come afterwards, after it gets built, you're like, okay, that's a good decision by the Bears. They own the stadium. There's so much that you can do with it. But again, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, when they did the town hall a couple years ago in Arlington Heights, Hoge and Karm and I were there for it. It was interesting going there, being so used to like trying to envision, like I drove over to the Arlington Heights parking lot, and they still had the racetrack up at the time. They had bulldozed it, and they had this big overhanging sign that says welcome to Arlington Heights, and trying to envision the stadium there was really unique, because when I went to the town hall, it's like 5 minutes down the road from the racetrack and this property the Bears now own. And it's like you're describing, Hoge and Lambeau. It's residential. It's old 70s built houses, like your grandma's house, like all this whole subdivision. And like, just being so used to going to Soldier Field and it being in the city, and then trying to imagine the environment pulling up to a Bears game in Arlington Heights, it'll be vastly different. There's no question about it, but it just makes a lot of sense in terms of the amount of property they own over there. We did end up going to lunch. I went some guys from Windy City Gridiron to lunch, and like going past the residential stuff, they did have a little district area where there's some really nice restaurants and bars and stuff. And, so I can see where that's going to eventually work out for the Bears. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they end up doing.
Yeah. Well, again, whatever the solution ends up being, if it's got to include more of that stuff, because it's got to be more of a destination 365 days a year. It can't just be, hey, this is where you play 10 games a year, and then it's a city operated deal where they could do whatever they want with it for the rest of the year. It's just, yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
Really quickly, I mean, going to the Bills Stadium, like they were already
building
had
it.
Good progress on the new one, and they're literally right next to each other. And like, man, like we've been talking. Obviously, I think they first
seriously
brought
though
up
the Bills. Yeah, they're already building it. That just goes
Mm-hmm.
to show you the red tape that runs long in Chicago.
And I don't know when it was announced that they said that they were going to do this. Maybe it was like 2021, somewhere around there. But like, there are support. Like the cranes were in the air, you guys. If Kevin Warren saw that, which he probably did, he probably would have lost his damn mind. But they were up there. It was right next to the old stadium. Actually, I really like the Bills stadium
Jacksonville. Somebody in the chat's bringing up the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cleveland Browns too. Yeah. Jacksonville almost moved from the Jags almost moved from Jacksonville. Cleveland Browns, talk about their ownership. If those two teams get a stadium built before the Bears too, like, come on, people, wake up.
Well, and the reality is every day that they don't have a shovel on the ground yet, it's wasted money because they're sitting on that land in Arlington, and I did this last year when I ended up on taking James on a stadium tour at US Bank Stadium. We've talked a lot about that one, but like I was surprised that I thought I was just like, okay, this Lambeau thing. I've seen Lambeau, but we're doing this tour thing, and I didn't expect to come away with it being like, oh, this is going on here too. Like another team that is way ahead of the Bears, and basically that's where the Bears are. They're towards the bottom when it comes to being able to profit off their stadium. Anyway, we've talked about that enough. But I did want to bring it up since we were talking about the NFC North, and I was there over the weekend. In the meantime, guys, Hard Knocks tonight. Looking forward to it, and we will be back tonight, and we're going to be even quicker. We have an internal goal to be even faster. As soon as Hard Knocks is over, we will be on here with Corey Wooten tonight. The three of us with Corey Wooten talking about what we see on the show tonight. Greg, what are you looking forward to? What are you hoping to see tonight? Because honestly, I feel like we're a little bit more in the dark on this episode than we were going into last week's premiere.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've heard some clues that there might be a Tyler Scott, graduation ceremony that eventually enters the fold, but you never know what they decide to cut and bring back in. I think Jennifer, King eventually will get a spotlight here, on the show, maybe even Tony Medlin, if you're talking about singular storylines. But the thing I'm most looking forward to is hearing the mic'd up audio of these guys on the sidelines at that game on Saturday. We heard the post-game reaction. Nick did a great job covering the locker room, immediately after the game in Buffalo, and hearing those guys talk about how exciting it was. You saw Braxton Jones talking about that today, and Andrew Billings and as well mentioning, it was cool to see him do that in a game. We know what he's done at practice. So I want to hear those instantaneous reactions from the sidelines when some of those big plays were made by Caleb Williams, which is, I think, the first time we brought him up on this entire show today, which is ridiculous. An hour in, and we've done a whole show without talking about Caleb Williams. That's pretty good. But I'd be damned if
you're not listening. My best was Caleb Williams. Nick's best was Caleb Williams.
I know, but that's not enough. I need 30 minutes to gush over this beautiful quarterback we have on our team. So here we are circling back to Caleb Williams' moment. So that's what I'm most looking forward to, is hearing those instant reactions by the players and coaches on the sidelines from that game.
Yeah, I would say, other than obviously we saw me crystal clear the first time on the first episode. So hopefully, seeing, better. No, I think there's got to be some episode about the defense chirping, because they've been doing that a lot. And obviously the cameras were there. So I wonder if they're going to highlight how much the defense likes to talk. I feel like there might be a more Jalen Johnson. We saw him in his car initially. I feel like I need to highlight him a little bit more, but it's obviously going to be a lot focused on Caleb Williams' debut in the preseason, but curious to see how they show the defense a little bit more maybe in this episode.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. I agree that the mic'd up during the game to see those raw reactions, because I have to say, doing the show with Cole yesterday, just even the way that Cole and DJ were talking about Caleb and we shared a clip on social media. If you haven't, heard the episode yet, to me, it's different than the things that were said about Justin and Mitch when they were first out there. Because remember, all three of these guys they've had pretty decent preseason debuts. Mm-hmm. So you really, it's kind of like trusting your eyes to understand the difference. But I also want to trust my ears a little bit too, because, I'll give you an example. Eric Washington talking about Austin Booker today. Yeah, it was great. Love it. But I also want to, I'm paraphrasing now what he exactly said, but it was like, I'm going to pump the brakes here a little bit. He's got this is a long road of development here, right? You're not really hearing that with what Caleb did Saturday. It's yeah, man, that was pretty awesome. That was pretty sweet, but when Justin was good in the preseason, it was always like, well, it's the preseason. And I'm talking about not things we say, but like what they're saying internally when they get up to the microphone and they're doing press conferences and stuff like that. I haven't heard a whole lot of couching what happened Saturday. It seems like raw, real. Yes, guys. Even Braxton Jones today. Yes, Caleb being Caleb.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, it's to me, hearing the national guys, seeing some of these guys do these film breakdowns, it does feel more real. And maybe we're learning through the failures of previous quarterbacks and false hopes that we had. Going through some of those different things. But I also think the difference, when you talk about Mitch's debut or Justin's debut was, that was against, Victor Cruz, Mitch Trubisky. I was at Soldier Field when he threw that touchdown to Victor Cruz. That was third string or second string behind Mike Glennon. That was in the second half when he's making some of those plays. And then you have Justin Fields against the Dolphins. He put on a huge display there. But again, not first team reps. This is on the road at Buffalo, one of the better defenses in the last few years, and their first team reps. And those are his first snaps as a pro. So there was a little bit of a difference. We all understand that, things are much more vanilla, but at the same time, when you watch some of the breakdowns and watch how they were rotating safeties and giving some different looks pre-snap and then changing them post-snap, listening to Caleb Williams in the post-game presser, some guys on Bears Twitter, I'm bearing down, who does a great job of cutting some of the tape. He synced it up with the audio and the video of Caleb breaking down the play where he scrambled and diagnosing what he saw pre-snap and what he decided to do post-snap. And it really kind of puts into perfect detail just how advanced this player is in Caleb Williams as a quarterback prospect and why he's worthy of the hype that he has as the number one pick in this league.
Yeah, totally agree. So Hard Knocks tonight. We'll be on right afterward. In the meantime, got a couple supers to get to before we get out of here. And Gritty's up first with a $10 super chat. Braggs, what should I order from Taco Bell for dinner tonight as I view the new Hard Knocks? He said the 85 was great. Cole is awesome. Hoagie Cat was a wonderful compliment. Nice stash, Nick. Hashtag LFCHGO. Appreciate the compliments across the board there, Gritty. And yes, everybody should check out the 85. Greg, what's your advice on dinner?
Yeah, Nick and Zach Pearson are slowly morphing into Mike Ditka as every day passes here at training camp with their mustaches. And it's an easy decision for me what you order at Taco Bell. And I swear to God, like the amount of free plugs that this enterprise at Taco Bell, I mean, we're saving them at this point. I know that they need the money. And to me, you're getting cheesy gordita crunches. You're getting chicken quesadillas there. Look at, they even know your name, Nick, on the app. That's amazing. You're getting a chicken quesadilla. But if you get a chicken quesadilla, always order it with extra sauce. And don't let them skimp you on it. That to me is crucial. A supreme burrito, nachos. There's just so many different things you can get at Taco Bell. That's what makes it such a magical.
You could have just said like tacos and we could have moved on.
I could have, but I like to talk.
There's so much more there. Actually, I'm not going to lie. The last, I've never had the Mexican pizza, which is weird. The last Hard Knocks, my fiance and I we had Taco Bell to watch it. I think that's going to be a thing. I think Tuesday nights are Hard Knocks Taco Bell night. So I think I'll be going to Taco Bell there tonight too. It's a thing.
Okay. Well, you guys enjoy that. I'm just going to go to the next super chat, which I swear is not my burner account. KRCH Sports 199. Bragg, this isn't Spaces. Calm down.
Yeah, I think this was in reference to my kissing cousins joke that I made earlier at Hoge's, the expensive Hoge's beautiful family. I'm sorry to all of you.
And you're at Hoge's house right now.
Listen to this show.
It's okay, I mean, come on, it's all fun and games. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for this. And yes, this isn't
take the whiskey away. Take the whiskey away.
He actually tapped into my rum today, which was a good call because no one really drinks it. Mm-hmm. Except for him and all his pop and Taco Bell. All right. Well, we got a little bit of a gap here to reset between now and Hard Knocks tonight.
I gotta drive down 294. It ain't a gap.
Well, but here's what you're gonna do. This is where I was transitioning into a plug and what people should do to fill their time if they happen to be having a 2-hour drive home right now to the great state of Indiana. You turn on the 85 with Cole Kmet. Check it out. First episode's out now, and it's available to listen to as a podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. It also, I want to stress once again, has its own separate YouTube channel. So if you're looking for it here on the CHGO channel, you're not going to find it here. You need to go to the 85 with Cole Kmet channel and hit subscribe there. You want to be subscribed here too as well. So hit subscribe on both. If for some reason you're not subscribed here, hit the like button, damn it, on this show right now. Do it right now. Right now. Right now. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. But yes, to fill your time between now and Hard Knocks, check out the 85. Very pleased with how that came out, and really looking forward to it all season long. New episode coming out next week. That'll be a weekly show. We are still here daily, though, and it is just the start of our week. Back tomorrow, the three of us, as Karm leaves us in the dust this week. Hopefully, this practice on Thursday is happening against the Bengals. The weather looks not great. So we'll keep you posted on what happens with that. But tomorrow's another open practice. The three of us will be there, and we'll be right back here, of course, at 2 tomorrow with another practice recap show. Appreciate everybody being here. We'll see you later on tonight. CHGO Bears After Dark.
We all silly like the mayor.